that has been witnessing a number of serious events since the 25th of January revolution. And to shed more light on this issue, we are delighted to be joined with Mr. Wajيه الغول, a strategic expert in the Sinai affairs. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
A very good morning to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. The Sinai Peninsula, a sore spot in the side of all Egyptians right now, and we were just speaking before we went on air about Sinai's security, and we are facing various problems in securing the peninsula. Tell us a bit more about, you said a very interesting statement before we went on air, without development there is no security. So tell us a bit more about that.
Okay. First of all, we must find a real answer for these questions. Who wants Sinai to be place for death and war, not a place for life? Second question, who wants Sinai to be vast sand without any real development, and what the incentives behind that? A matter of fact, the real development in Sinai for all our economic strategic problems, it was neglected on purpose during Mubarak regime, and he manipulated the tribes and appointed sheikhs and magistrates that break the linkage and the social fabric during the tribes in Sinai. Through that way, he turns thieves to be honorable, and honorable to be thieves or beggars. The development of Sinai needed to strategic vision, strategic management. That means how to detect the risks and turn them into opportunities that need to strategic man. During Mubarak regime, he looked at Sinai as a name. He didn't remember it, even if in celebrations and etc., etc. And now we don't have map or strategic visions or estimators to estimate how our success or our failure in Sinai. We cannot restore Sinai by police or armed forces. The main and the sole way to restore Sinai is to real development in Sinai. Sinai turns now to be safe haven for jihadists, for traffickers, for smugglers. If we look at the gasoline as example, liter of gasoline bought in Egypt by 1 livre Egyptian, and bought in Gaza by 10 livre Egyptian. That create great wealth. So that's many internal, regional, and international forces doesn't like to be developed Sinai. If we want to pave the way to real development in Sinai, first of all, we must fill in that gaps and fill it really, and don't put Sinai to any regional or any things of to support another groups in Gaza. We cannot make our national security at stake. What happens in Sinai today is very, 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 very important and danger. Danger in Sinai underneath, and it sink into the bones of residents of Sinai.
Yeah, I want to know how do you see what's happening in Sinai? Every day people are killed in Sinai. How do you see what's happening, the serious events that have been taking place for a long period of time?
That was syndromes of main no one in Egypt haven't any readiness or willpower to deal with the main root of the illness. The illness in Sinai is the lack of development, lack of the Egyptian state in Sinai that was manipulated by Mubarak regimes for his collaborations with Israel, and now for other calculations that appear today before our eyes.
Sir, I want to ask about the role of the police and the army. You said that they have a very big role to play, but they are fighting, and I will use the term fighting, against armed cells. There are a lot of armed cells now in Sinai. We hear news every day of weapons and guns and grenades and lots of types of weaponry moving around freely amongst these armed cells, and they know where they are and they have their sensors, yet they're unable to face off with them. Tell us why this is happening. Why are we struggling to secure Sinai in such a manner?
We must recall that armed forces is not designed to deal with civilians or with residents.
But the police is there.
Yeah, but police is limited by Camp David Treaty in its numbers and its rules, so that to provide escort to police forces in Sinai, we must be populations there. You lead them to vast lands without any escort, without any protections, so that it is normal to deal with that. And don't forget that Sinai open up to all kinds of militants, so that it requires new equipments to deal with them, not by traditional police forces as happen now. So that's the natural conclusions. What happens in checkpoints and etc. etc. And don't forget that the Egyptian police was designed during Mubarak regime to protect his regimes and to inherit Egypt to his son. So that's the competent of there is very incompetency in police and such as all the Egyptian institutions that reflects in the failure to deal with people there. Don't forget that the emergency law lost the Egyptian police their capacity and their competence, so that we must look at rehabilitate them first of all, and after that we can talk about the role of police in Sinai. That must be parallel with real development there to provide populations there to escort these police forces.
So, sir, many people do believe that Israel is planning to reoccupy Sinai, while others do believe that it's trying to push Palestinians in order to live in Sinai. What do you think about that?
I exclude these options because it is not in favor of Israel to reoccupy Sinai. What can Israel do through land invasions in Gaza to reoccupy the borderline between Gaza Strip and Egypt, to impose a full seizures on Gaza Strip? But to reoccupy Sinai, I exclude this option.
What about pushing Palestinians in order to go to Sinai and live there?
To find alternative homeland, that's the latest developments will lead us to believe that or don't believe that.
So what is the solution in your opinion for the situation in Sinai?
European Union was a part of the international forces to control the cross points in Rafah, and after 2005 elections and Hamas accession to power and Israel withdrawal from Gaza, we enter a new phase. During Mubarak regime, he controlled the borderline, but he permit tunnels to play its roles for the favor of businessmen related to Mubarak regime.
So, Mr. Wajih Al-Ghul, a strategic expert in the Sinai affairs. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. وأتمنى يكون يعني
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank
And
you.
our dear viewers, we thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you enjoyed this edition of The Breakfast Show. And I would like to thank my colleague Anji Meher.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much, Yasmin, and thanking all our viewers. And to join us again tomorrow morning for another edition of The Breakfast Show. Till then, it's a very goodbye.